All right. Welcome to the June 7th, 2023 CalPADS Q&A. My name is Paul Higgins. I'm a data analyst working CSIS supporting CalPADS. As we get started, let's go ahead and take care of some general housekeeping rules. As we always discuss, please hover over your name in the participants list and rename it to show your first name, last name, and ideally your LEA or organization. For announcements, I have end of year still in progress. Didn't suddenly change. The deadline is still set for the 28th of July, which we ideally want everyone to be CELPA approved by July 28th. The amendment window will begin on the 29th and will end on the 25th, and is being asked that that is used only for tweaks and adjustments as they're seen and found. If you're still doing data population after the 28th, there's generally going to be a concern, I think. CalPADS Flashes, CalPADS Flash 254, which discusses the 23-24 academic year's NSLP application process, et cetera, is available on the CalPADS communications page, or the CalPADS communications page. And it does go through the background of everything that's being talked about, the alternative income forms, timetables, summaries of what should be collected and by whom. It's just a very comprehensive discussion of the 23-24 NSLP process. So please take a look at that, familiarize yourself with it, share it with the staff inside your LEA that needs to know anything about FRPM for the coming year. So that way you're all reading off the same page. Angela, do you have anything for the group with regard to builds, bugs, or our immediate future?
Yeah, we are up to date on the active and fixed known issues. So that was updated with the fixes that were in yesterday's deployment. And that's all I have today, Paul.
All right, thank you, Angela. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and just jump into the chat box, and we're going to get started with Chuck at 301. Chuck writes, Q1. A couple of years back, CalPADS added 13.22 ADA generating independent study days to the STAS submission. I don't see this information reflected in any of the EOI 3 reports. Where is this data posted? How is this data reflected on the 14.1 student absentee count? Can these be reported as present?
Wonder if Paula remembers that far back. This had to do with the COVID era, and I think it was an additional field, I thought, for when they sent it to that other system. Was it ISAC back then? And so it's not meant for CalPADS reporting. It was meant for when we were in the COVID period, and there was a special way that we needed to handle the independent study attendance, I think. Is Paula not with us?
I don't think she is.
Oh, and no Brandy?
I don't see them yet.
So Chuck, send it in as a ticket and I'll get confirmation of that particular element.
Thank you, Martha.
That's why I think it's not on any reports. It was a special thing that we did because of COVID.
All right. Moving on at 301 to Marcy, Q1. I already have a service desk ticket in, but I'm wondering if it can be bumped up in priority. SC 0139E1, ticket number 288112. I'm running out of time as my last allowed work day for the summer is Monday 6/12. So I need to be able to certify by then, and end of year one is my only one left not certified. Well done. I just need a little help sorting out the remaining course errors that it isn't letting me edit. Thanks for your help. Was anyone able to look up that certificate and see?
I found it. Nate has it. I'm seeing if he grabbed it or if somebody gave it to him. Looks like Nate's been working with you. He's in the office today, right, Martha?
He's at the conference.
Oh, he's at the conference. Okay. Okay, I'll grab it, Marcy, and I'll respond. Nate's out today.
Thank you, Andy. Linda, 301 Q1, in preparation for initial LPAC testing to occur in July 2023. Our district plans to upload an SCNR file this week of the June 26th with a start date of 7/1/2023 and an exit date 30 days from the date of the SCNR file submitted. Will future exit dates for these students in the SCNR file show them as active or inactive exit from our LEA from CalPADS to TOMS? Would it be best to only submit the 2023-24 academic year open enrollments as of July 1 with no exit date to get the pre-reg TBD students onto CalPADS to TOMS for their initial LPAC for summer testing? I believe that if you pre-close them, if you future close them, it does create problems with the extract getting the information to TOMS. So I would just submit the open enrollments, and then wait for TOMS to acknowledge it, wait for them to be tested, then close out those enrollments as necessary before the academic year or the school year begins, and then re-enroll them when and where necessary. All right, 302, Claudia, and Claudia included 2 in there, but we're only going to cover the first one, Claudia. No fair cheating. Q1, the following statement was in the latest Flash 254. Students, quote, students directly certified as eligible for free meals based on a match conducted by an LEA and its County Welfare Department of Student Enrollment and CalFresh and CalWORKs eligibility data, programs 181 free meal. Will this mean we can do local matches the same way we do foster student on, or is this referring to extended benefit students? If yes, how and where can we do these matches?
Some LEAs have agreements with their county welfare departments, and they make their matches that way. So that's what that is specifically talking to. So there's got to be somebody in your district that knows if they do that kind of matching with the county roll sheets, if you will.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Martha. We'll come back to your Q2. Asya at 302 Q1. My finance section certified cars for 3 schools. In report 5.1 NCLB Title I Part A Basic School-wide column is blank for these 3 schools. I contacted CARS about this, but meanwhile wanted to ask whether you know how many days it takes for CARS data to make its way to CalPAD. I had understood that there was going to be I thought it was going to be a daily or a nightly upload from CARS to CalPADS with
That's what Thor says there.
Data. Oh, Thor, thank you, Thor. Thank you for validating what I just said.
And does the LEA have to certify all schools, or can they do them, individually, Thor? Do you know? Thanks, Thor. We'll come back to it if you find out. Oh, that was Ethan answering, Thor?
Just a regular service ticket. And then
yeah, Ethan, just put in a normal service desk ticket and reference that question, and that Thor asked you to put in a ticket, and we will send it over to him as it comes in. Moving on, we have Cedric at 303 Q1. CalPADS Flash 254 makes it sound like there were changes to the LCFF process, but I didn't notice anything new. It would be very helpful if there was a short summary of the changes. And then looks like there was a response that came in that said the only change that they could detect was a reference to the summer PEBT in the section about encouraging parents to submit the alternative income form.
I think with COVID, we were changing, what program records get included, what's the cutoff point. At one point 2 years ago or so, we gave you guys till December 31st, I think, to do the program records. This past fall, we went back to October 31st, right? You had to have your SPRG program records for NSLP dated prior to October 31st to be included in the counts. And so maybe that's what it was referring to, just the various changes that have gone on. We also changed the filters on report 117. And so because before it used to do 2 different ways of giving you the counts, and now it's very specific to LCFF funding. So that was the last change that we did in fall. And then understanding how 1.1 got altered. So there was another flash that explained the differences to 117 versus 1.1.
Thank you, Martha.
Although this talks about the LCFF process, so I'm not sure what he means by a process. He was referring to the business rules, because that's what I was quoting. So sorry if I didn't respond correctly, Cedric. You can send in another question to clarify.
Thank you, Martha. Charlene, 303 Q1. We expelled a student on 4/14/2023 with an exit code E300, expel, no enroll. The student is also triggering the warning Cert 150, missing expulsion incident record. Can we survive without the sync, SIRS, and SOF, or must we resolve the Cert 150? Well, the Cert 150 is a warning, and it's up on the screen. And what it's basically saying is, hey, you've said that there was an expulsion, but there's nothing matching in the actual incident data, or any of the incident data. So it doesn't really match. And I think a lot of this comes, the reason that it's a warning is because you often have to report stuff from prior years, that happened during summer school, right at the end of the last prior year, whatever happened. And so as a warning, it will not prevent you from LEA approving your data and eventually being self-approved onward. But it does raise, concerns if you have declared that there was something going on in your attendance data, but then you're not submitting anything in your discipline data. And if it's the case that it happened, as you said here, it happened late in the year. So there's no real reason not to report it from our perspective. If this was a prior year thing and it was just undocumented or didn't have good documentation, you might want to let it ride rather than try and fudge some documentation. But if this happened, a month and a half, 2 months ago at this point, yeah, I think that it would be prudent to report it. All right, moving on. Karen at 303 Q1. Are 4-5 combo classes still not allowed? Could we schedule students in separate courses, 4th in course 4, 5th in course 5, and they're being taught by the same teacher? Logistically, it can happen in CalPADS where you would create that 4th grade class and then the 5th grade class and then assign the teacher, because we're not looking at an actual, daily schedule where those would actually be sitting on top of each other using the same classroom space and the same teacher. All we would see is the same teacher teaches both 4th and 5th grades. What I'm unclear on is whether it's allowed to put the 4th and 5th graders together like that anymore. And I know that Brandy had made comments previously that was changing and there were some issues, but I don't know what those are. So can anybody from CDE speak to that?
Yes, we need a ticket.
Yes, we do. That resounding silence, just all I saw was tumbleweeds rolling across my living room. Okay, Karen, please put in a service desk ticket and we will find that answer for you. Charlene, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to treat that as Q2, be back to it. Bavita at 304 Q1 under CTE construction courses, state course code 7341 and 7342, pathway 123, a group of students from a high school in our district constructed a tiny house. Can the hours spent on building that house be reported under work-based learning student-led enterprise? All right, so there's course 7341. Yeah, it's a pathway 123, CTE. And here again, I'm suffering from ignorance of exactly what the reporting criteria are. That, you know, I know the various categories, but I don't know how they're defined and applied by CTE's CTE section. So I can't definitively answer that without input from CTE. So please, Barita, please put in a service desk ticket and we will get that answered as best we can. Thank you.
Pretty cool though. Look at Poway to solve the housing crisis in California.
Vanessa at 305 Q1. We have a Sped student that had an initial eval done in November 2022. So I sent up an enrollment to CalPADS for that one date with no end date so that Sped could send up that transaction. Student qualified for Sped IEP in February. Due to student needs, a paraprofessional was not needed, but there was none available. Needs a para. Due to student needs, a paraprofessional was needed, but there was none available. Got it. Student was taken to board to get approved and recruitment took too long. Paraprofessional did not start until a few weeks ago and mother did not feel comfortable sending her child to school for the last 2 weeks of school. My question, should the student be enrolled as of the date of her initial? Should I enroll and drop the same day of the initial and re-enroll the student on the date the student become eligible for Sped? Student is a kinder, and now this enrollment triggered or testing department to test her for the initial IPAC. Is this permissible?
So for this one, Paul, you could refer or reference CalPADS Flash 161. Usually what happens is during the parental consent, you actually, that is the time when you actually get an SSID, obviously, right? And that's usually our reference. So either one would actually work, Vanessa, in terms of like you use either the parental consent date or the date of the initial meeting date. And if you could actually also reference CalPADS Flash 207, it's actually notable there that if you do an N470 for a student, it could be either the parent consent date, which is when you actually obtain your SSID, and or your meeting date. In this case, it would be probably the latter one that would actually make more sense, obviously, when the student actually is enrolled. In CalPADS Flash 161 as well, there's a matrix there so that you could actually see how when the student is actually enrolled at your school, right? So you probably don't need to do an N470 for that matter, obviously, because the student is actually enrolled in your school. So please look at that matrix over at CalPADS Flash 161.
Thank you, Joe. Moving on to Ethan at 305 Q1. Can you remind us of the proper procedure to correct a student's primary language if it was reported incorrectly by a prior LEA?
You
Yeah.
treat it like an SSID anomaly, but contact them and have them fix it.
Rocio 310 Q1, if a student qualifies for free or reduced lunch on a direct cert list and the following month they are no longer eligible, does that mean they are no longer qualified as free or reduced, or for the rest of the school year?
Once I believe that once they become eligible, they're good for the whole year. It's only when you are supposed to do your verification and you initially mark somebody as eligible and then you later verified it and they weren't, that's when you remove it. But if they were eligible at the time that the application came in, then they're good for the rest of the year, even if the circumstances changes or they're no longer on the DC rolls. So they're good for the whole year.
Thank you, Martha. Down to Amy at 310 Q1. NPS student starting 3rd grade at an NPS school on 6/12/2023 outside of the district's academic year calendar. Do I just make it a year round for my NPS school? And will I have to create 2 SCNR, one for 6/12 to 6/30 and another from 7/1 to 6/30? Not sure what you mean by do I just make it year round for my NPS school, but the second question, do you need to make 2 SCNR entries? The answer is yes. That 6/12 to 6/30 will account for 22-23, and then 7/1 moving forward, I wouldn't end date it, would take care of the 23-24. And apparently that's what Laura does as well. Oh, Thor at 311 is apologizing because he does not have a mic. And he does not know if LEAs need to certify all CARS data before it becomes available to CalPADs. So it may need all sites within an LEA to be certified before all of that data gets pushed over, or it could be pushed over site by site. We're just not certain at this point. Asya at 302 Q1, my finance, oh, wait a minute, we did that one already, and now they're just talking. Never mind. All right, that's Amy, Marcy. Oh goodness, I guess I've just been bounced all the way to the bottom. Okay, I'm going to jump up to the top and start calling out Q2s again. All right. All right, first Q2, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. I had more Q2s than this. Okay, Claudia, Q2 at 302. Which DC file extract, July or August, should we use at the start of the new school year? The reason I'm asking is because one of my students was not tagged as socially disadvantaged for CASP, and he is only showing as DC in the July 22 file. Start of the new school year. Well, I mean, if they were DC at all, they should have been socioeconomically disadvantaged. And not, yeah.
I mean, folks can use each month and not just, ignore July and only do August, because potentially you pick up some kids that were eligible in July and then weren't in August. There's an FAQ on the rules about direct certification, or the fact that they become eligible and then later they're not, and how you're supposed to treat those kids. One of my students wasn't tagged as socially disadvantaged for CAS, and he's only showing as DC in the July file. It could be too that I wonder if it has to do with when they enrolled as well, because at the time of enrollment, maybe they were no longer DC. You can send in a ticket. We'll try to get to the bottom of your question.
All right, Charlene at 310 Q2. We suspended some elementary and middle school students for disruption and defiance. If the director at Student Support Services okayed these suspensions, are we required to resolve these CERT 152 warnings still? All right, so the CERT 152 is an invalid incident result code and grade level combo for students offense 511, disruption and defiance. Yeah, you're what did oh, Kyron has some good advice there, and it's you may ignore the warning knowing it was approved. Just make sure you have notes about it in your SIS as justification, and that's solid advice. You know, anytime you have something non-standard that's triggering a warning or an error of some kind, definitely have notes on it.
I think one of the nuance, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kyron, is that you can have a teacher that suspends a kid from the class, and that's why they may have that written up as an incident. And so in that case, it's allowable. But if a student is suspended from the discipline people or the principal or whatnot, it's not acceptable for certain grade levels for that to be the only reason that they get a suspension or expulsion for defiance and disruption. So I think that's why it's a warning. So you just verify, was this a teacher suspension? And if it was, then it's okay, it's allowable. But if it wasn't, then it's like you're in violation of ed code. And when I say you, not you as a data coordinator, but your organization. And so you should be talking to the discipline coordinator at your LEA to, say, hey, this student showed up with a warning, was it legitimate, this incident to be documented or populated?
I agree, Martha. And also there is no way to no distinction, no way to know if it's a teacher suspension or not. And so you have to make sure that it's part of it's indicated in your notes too, because CalPADS wouldn't be able to differentiate those two.
Good point.
Thank you, Kyron. Thank you, Martha. All right, moving on to 315 Q2 for Amy. Amy. Q2, how to record dates for pass-throughs on SCNR. Student with disabilities is resident of our district, gets initial evaluation and placement through this district, but is served at a different school. Which district is at the primary enrollment? Which one records secondary for the same period of time? The no-show record is causing a lot of work for all parties due to the district office is not considered a school in SIS, and we cannot enroll the student at district. But that is what we need to do for the pass-throughs to not have the impact on enrollment counts at any of our schools where the child has never set foot. And sometimes they are asking for SSID acquisition between the years outside of academic year calendars.
So, Paul, we have the SWD reporting scenario, which would actually be the official guidance who should be reporting. The reporting LEA, more specifically, we're talking about column I there, where who should be reporting the student. So if the district of residence is conducting the initial evaluation for a student, they may do so, but they should actually coordinate that obviously where the student would be placed, obviously where the student is attending school. So if you look at the column I there, it actually correlates or is equivalent to where the student is receiving majority instruction, which is column E equals column I here. So kind of see how that flow goes on here. And we're talking about obviously specifically K-12 students here. Now, there are certain circumstances where the parent would request initial evaluation from the district of residence, and those are what we call the annual offers of FAPE. So sometimes and most likely the scenario that would happen would be if the student is on a private school and the parents would actually opt for like a evaluation from the district of residence for offer of FAPE, but they would not use that obviously because they're still, the student is attending school at a private school. In those kind of circumstances, those are what we distinguish as annual offers of FAPE that the district of residence do. Now we have an FAQ for those, and if you look at the FAQ, CalPAD's FAQ actually, the annual offers of FAPE would be tracked locally at your local level and should not be a CalPADS reporting requirement unless there is a change in the initial evaluation or there is an acceptance of offers of FAPE. So those are the guidelines. And Amy, if you're not yet clear on this, you could submit a ticket so that we could be more specific about the circumstance or scenario that you're talking about. So essentially, if there is any initial evaluation that conducted by the district of residence, make sure that to distinguish what are those that are annual offers of FAPE, as opposed to like initial evaluation that you guys are need to coordinate with the reporting LEA that is prescribed on the SWD reporting scenario.
Thanks, Joe. All right, moving on. ASIA 325 has follow-up Q2, which reads, can we find out whether the CARS has to be certified for all schools in order for the data to populate on report 5.1? My finance department is only certified three of the schools in our LEA for CARS school-wide.
So the school-wide certification is based on a threshold of SED percentage. So if your SED is 40% or more, then for that school, then they qualify for school-wide eligibility. However, your finance officer has to determine that percentage.
Right, and it has to get certified in order for CalPADS to know about it, and that's what we're struggling with. When does CalPADS know about it? So we were saying it had to be certified, and the question is whether or not they can certify by the school or it has to be certified by the LEA for it to show up in CalPADS. And we thought that you guys could maybe test it out, right? If you knew that you only certified 3 schools and you're getting results, then great, it's doing it by the school. But if you did 3 schools and you had 5 others and you got no results, then that's an indication probably that you need all of your schools. We were hoping somebody was at that place that could inform us.
All right. 333, Rocio asks Q2, should an LEA create a 181 or 182 program record if a foster student is not qualified as free and reduced on a direct cert list? Yes, because they're categorically eligible as foster youth to have a free meal. So yes, create a 181 record for them based on their foster eligibility.
You may want to show them where the LCFF FAQs are. Again, just so you guys know, you might want to check the LCFF FAQs if you have additional questions about what came out in the flash and see if, so there's different FAQs, right? So you want the one that says LCFF, and it's the fiscal services folks at the Department of Ed that authored those FAQs because it has to do with funding and whatnot. But it correlates, it's right in the middle. It's like the 4th or 5th one down that's specific to the LC. No, on the top, the hyperlink at the very top, because there's different categories of the, so you want, So you might want to bookmark this page and get familiar with those FAQs.
Thank you, Martha.
Yep.
All right, with that, we still have 25 minutes left, but there are no new questions. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, Gary just posted the LCFF FAQs, and Cordy Stacy at 3:36 posted Q1. I was walking a new Sped CalPADS user through the most recent error report and realized that there are several CDDs missing between Fall 1 and end of year 4, namely Sped 389, Sped 390, 391, 392, 398, 405, 521, 590, and 591. Was this intentional?
They missing from?
I
They're
mean,
missing from the error list.
Yeah, I think they
I
some were not included on end of year 4. Or end of year
So
4.
I know specifically that SPED 590 and 591 are actually warnings, I believe, or DDs during the end of year, and would actually be fatal during the fall one, because those are the times actually on the fall one snapshot we actually do really actually derive the figures for the LRE, or the educational environment, for both the preschoolers and school age, and those are the notable SPED validations that are fatal during the fall one.
Thank you, Joe. All right, looks like Charlene is asking me to come back up to 303 and get her supplement to her Q1. So it reads, more on Q1. The student was in home instruction since February 14th. If we are to enter the sync, SIRS, and SOF, what date should these records be on? They should all be dated for the incident date. And I think the only one of those that actually holds a date is the sync record. So the sync record should reflect the date the incident occurred. The SOF should show whatever, offenses were committed, and the SIRS should be whatever result ended up because of that. All right. Eric 337 Q1. I'm going on a 3-week vacation. What am I going to do with all that time? Have a great summer. Hey, Eric, I hate you. Enjoy your summer. No, honestly, enjoy your summer. You deserve it. Let's see. Oh, and yeah, Alex, not Manriquez Young, did bring up a good point. You can always call in on Wednesday afternoons, just in case you're ever, at wit's end or anything, just empty hands, don't know what to do. Yeah, give us a call. And May at 339 Q1, what CalPADS report has the non-stability rates / counts that are on the DataQuest stability report / dashboard? I think that's something that data reporting office actually just kind of calculates on their own, isn't it? They take stuff out of CalPADS and they have their own massaging for it. But I don't know exactly what their process is.
Stability means non-stability. I don't know what that reflects. Is that attendance or?
Got me.
It wouldn't. It's a DataQuest report, not a dashboard, I don't think. And oftentimes they have a legend somewhere, when they generate some of those reports. So I don't know if you're on that page, if you looked around to see if they had some sort of glossary or legend to help explain the report.
All right, well, I did find a page for information about the stability rate report on CDE's webpage. I'm gonna copy that and paste it into the chat box. I can't actually say what's in here because I'm just now seeing it. And it looks like it is stability versus mobility. So I'm going to say that this is definitely STAS data.
So it says who receive a full year of learning at the same school. Perhaps cumulative enrollment? Is cumulative enrollment by the LEA or is it by the school? So you may want to look at cumulative enrollment, some of the filters, and see if that helps get you to what you're looking for.
All right. Rebecca, 340. To Q1, SCNR 454, student needs second enrollment in CalPADS. I changed the first 22-23 enrollment to no adult special ed, ended enrollment with yes special ed. Why won't error clear? Not sure if it's done correctly. Thanks. Rebecca, go ahead and just send in a ticket with that information. I will grab it up and take a look at it.
I think you need a post, what do you call that? Adult transition indicator, right, Paul? But
Yeah,
anyway, you're right. You might as well
I just
be.
want to look at it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
And it probably has something to do with their special education data system too, or maybe in the SIS, how they're populating a certain field. Well, this is another quick Wednesday. Did Paul beat you, Gary, from last week?
No.
No, unfortunately, I think I was done by 3:27 last week.
Mhm.
But good effort, Paul.
Hey, I'm doing my best. All right. Well, you know, I would love to give you back 17 minutes of your life, but if you do have a question, please ask it. We're more than happy to take care of you. Q1, is there any update regarding the special ed trailer bill regarding the new graduation requirements for special ed students?
I think Terry, check back with us next week when we have Paula or Brandy on the call. I do not know the answer to that.
Right. And Rebecca, we talked about May, we talked about Margarita, 331, Q1, should students in home and hospital be reported under district programs?
Well, where do you have them enrolled? Right? If you're gonna, or maybe that's what you're asking us, where do you enroll a student if they're in home and hospital? Sometimes people put it at the school that is where they would have normally gone to, and some people put the program at the district office. So it depends, I think, on your LEA. Just do it consistently. I don't think you can do it either way. I don't think there's one way to do it. And I don't know if that's in our CalPADS FAQ, if that was, or the data guide at all, if we mention in there where to report home and hospital.
I think it's it as enrollment at their, whatever their homeschool is, unless you're monitoring them on the district level.
So if they're providing, because home and hospital would also mean having classes. So if it depends where the classes is being provided. So it could be the school site. That way you can align the teachers teaching home and hospital. It could also be the district. So it depends.
Oh, I see. If it's district staff serving those
Yeah.
kids versus if it's a site person.
Because you would also consider the courses, the classes that you would be attending.
Thank you, Gary.
Gary's trying to find it in the data guide, huh? Because there used to be a thing on home and hospital.
Yeah, there's a section here.
So it's on page 232, Gary.
232.
Yeah, just how should these students be reported in CalPADS?
Here we go. You guys seeing it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So check
right.
that out, May.
No,
Was
it's
it May?
Margarita.
No, Margarita.
All right. So anonymous at 333 Q1, if a student was identified from a previous district from K-1 as EL, and the student transferred to another district identified the student as EO based on the HLS, thus 2 through 5, the kid was never tested with LPAC at the new district. When the two SSID records are merged now, the student was tagged as EL. Since the previous district has the oldest SELA record, is the kid now considered a long-term EL? Is there a way to mitigate this issue?
So essentially, it's either removing. So is the kid now considered?
They were never
Yeah.
tested. That must be a really old record because you could not put an EL in there. That comes from Tom's, and you can only
Mhm.
get an EL status if you were tested.
And they're referencing that the kid was never tested for 3 years. So
Because
this
they
happened
thought
at
that they
least
were
3 years
EO.
ago.
Yeah.
So this happened at least 4 years ago for that initial EL record, and then 3 years ago for the EO record that superseded it, it sounds like.
So anonymous, we probably need a service ticket so that the language folks program area can respond to this. They have their own, I think, contact information too. So either you can contact them directly or send in a service ticket and we'll get it answered for you.
All right, and going back over to the chat box, Margarita confirmed that yes, that is the question. They currently do it in home sites, and it consists of teachers from the various sites that get hired to go to homes. It's not really associated to the site they work at. It's after their daily assignments. So that to me, streams, you could still be enrolling them at the district level and have the same services being offered. So they're still there. Let's see, Leilani at 347. I have classes that were only a second semester class. The SCSC is posting, but an SCSE is not posting for these students. Does something need to be changed in the section to clear these errors? Well, the SCSE, the Fall 2 student course enrollment form is not valid right now. You want to be submitting the end of year 1 student course completion record. And that completion record should have that second semester class in there listed as an S2, having enrolled everybody into them. And of course, it needs to have the corresponding course section completion file posted there. But there's no cross-validation between Fall 2 and end of year 1.
And the other thing, Fall 2 was based on census day. So if they weren't in this course until semester 2, that happened after census day. So it makes sense that there would be no course enrollment in Fall 2 because the kids weren't enrolled in semester 1. If that makes sense.
So I think it boils down to you really don't need to submit SCSC records beyond Fall 2.
Yep.
It's just the SCSC file.
But they may not, it may be part of the extract that the vendor builds for them. You know, they may not have control over that. I don't know. But you're okay.
All right, we have again reached the bottom of the list. It is now 3:52. Oh, Derek. All right, let's go up to 3:21. Hold on. All right, 3:21. Derek, Q1, Flash 254 states, quote, schools not participating in a federal school nutrition program must collect these forms, alternative income forms annually. End quote. Does this apply to virtual and homeschools operating within a district that is otherwise all CEP? The rest of our schools' forms are good for 4 years. Do we know the rationale for this requirement? Thank you.
I'm trying to scroll up there. You know, if they're virtual, they're not in school to receive meals. I think that's part of it, although the PEBT tries to compensate for those kids that are at home. Yeah, I think, Derek, we need a ticket so that folks at CD can help answer that question. The rules are getting really complex sometimes.
All right. Leilani is following up at 3:53, saying it's part of an extract, so now I have 2,500 fatal errors because of this, and I don't know how to clear it. Leilani, put in a service desk ticket so we can guide you through it, because it sounds like things have gotten a little bit odd. So I'd like to look at the data before we register any kind of guidance on that at this point.
Might need to check with your vendor to find out if they're pulling SCSC records out for whatever reason.
Yeah. All right, Clarissa at 3:53, for a preschool student with disability who's attending a regular ELC program, does the percentage of general ed give an indication percentage received SPED services at the regular early learning school?
The general ed percentage is specifically for school age students, so it's not actually required for preschoolers, unless, I mean, most likely the preschool fields that you should be notably entering for is the program setting, education program setting, right? And notably those preschool program settings that are coded there that are non-400 series, because the 400 series are for school age. The general percentage range is actually goes hand in hand with the 400 or the school age education program setting. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Okay, so Derek is going to put in a ticket. And with that, I'm just going to let you go. It is now 4 minutes till the hour, and I think that we've all done very well today. So thank you all for attending. Thank you all for asking very good questions that always make us think and dance on our feet trying to figure them out. If you have any questions between now and our next meeting, please put in a service desk ticket so we can answer it as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we will see you back here next Wednesday, same time, same place. You have a great week.